Six Happy Tuesday. We'll finish up what we know about volcanoes and earthquakes today and how to predict them and stay safe with them. Uh, if an earthquake or volcano was threatening the area where you live, you'd want to know as soon as possible. Can scientists predict these potential disasters? Let's find out. Scientists can use a variety of tools to make predictions about when and where volcanoes and earthquakes will happen. Device number one, or tool number one, is called a seismometer. Such as the ancient one below detects tremors. What are tremors? Tremors are shaking movements in Earth's crust. So you got, what does a seismometer do? It detects tremors, which is the shaking in Earth's crust. So here's the first one, guys. This is one that was literally almost 2,000 years old now that we have found in China. So you see the little frogs here, you see the little dragon, and each dragon has a little marble barely being held by its teeth. Inside this thing is a pendulum here. And so what happens when the tremor hits this thing, it causes this pendulum to fall, and it can fall and hit one of the dragon mouths, and so then it'll drop the ball out and it'll land into the frog. Okay, so it says small shifts in ground level would cause a ball in the dragon's mouth to fall into the frog's mouth. The frog that contains the ball would indicate the direction from which an earthquake occurred. So what you want to picture is if I'm standing and a guy comes in from to tackle me playing football and he dives at my feet, right? He takes my feet out, then I fall on top of him. So that's exactly what happens. The earthquake comes in from this side and it hits this device. It causes the device to then tip this way, knock into this marble, and drop it into the frog. Now, guys, this didn't predict an earthquake. This detected an earthquake. The earthquake sent out shockwaves, tremors, that made this device fall. What did the Chinese use that for 2,000 years ago? To say there was a disaster, start sending help, and start sending help in that direction. Which obviously in ancient times was big because the only other way to get that message was to send a messenger to run. And can you imagine if they had to run for 2 days before they got there? With this, they could detect it and start sending help. It would give you a couple day advantage, is what it came down to. Okay, that's a seismometer. The tremors may be a signal that magma is rising in a volcano or that Earth's plates are shifting. So you have two different choices here, guys. Tremors may signal that, number one, magma is rising in a volcano or an earthquake. Usually when we think about these things, we obviously think about earthquakes when it comes to that. Another instrument is called a tiltmeter. It detects changes in the slope of the land. So you have your fill in the blank there. This changes can also tell scientists that magma is rising within a volcano. So you picture the side of a triangle, guys. We put a laser beam on that edge of a triangle, which would be the side of a mountain. And then anytime it starts to bulge because magma is filling up, then it trips that laser beam and we're detected for it. We could have used that at Mount St. Helens, guys. Mount St. Helens started to bulge out as it filled up with magma. The mountain literally expanded. So that would be an important factor that we'd use. A tilt meter would do that for us. Scientists can often predict when and where volcanoes will erupt. Maps show where past activity has occurred. They give clues to where future activity is likely to occur because volcanoes often have a pattern of eruptions. So we predict when and where volcanoes will occur by looking at past activity. Now, guys, I don't want you to think, hey, this volcano erupts every 100 years, so we can name the date. It's not like that, but we know Mount St. Helens is a volcano, so we're going to keep an eye on that. We know Mount Vesuvius is a volcano, so we're going to keep an eye on it. And some volcanoes erupt more than others, and so as we start to track this in history, guys, that'll give it to us. Now, please don't think you can predict it by the day or anything like that, or even within a year, but you at least know. I don't have to put a tilt meter on every hill in the world wondering if it's a volcano or not. I know which ones to be looking for, and then we start to try to detect the magma rising with tilt meters and seismometers. Predicting earthquakes, guys, isn't as easy as predicting volcanoes. Lots of times we can see the changes that are happening inside a volcano. One of the things we did at Mount St. Helens is we, number one, saw it bulging, but number two, guys, as magma rises, it gets hot, obviously, and on the top of mountains is usually snow. So if all of a sudden you start to see a snow melt happening, you're going, why is the snow all of a sudden melting? We know magma is getting closer to the surface. So it's a warning sign, hey, you might need to get out of there. Earthquakes much more difficult. Scientists can find the location of faults, but how can they know when the plates will suddenly shift? Scientists listen for tremors using an instrument called a seismograph. So very similar to the seismometer, guys. A free-moving part of the seismograph moves freely back and forth as the ground moves. This instrument records this movement. So obviously, we have a paper thing going. It's nothing's happening. It's almost a straight line. Then when something happens, all of a sudden, bing, ding, 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 bounce back and forth like that. So a seismograph listens for tremors and records the movement. Okay, then I want to stress this with guys. These things do not predict earthquakes. They simply detect them. So can we predict an earthquake? No, we cannot. We can think of big ones coming because we haven't had too many. We can look for tremors and things, but guys, we cannot be predicting them, okay? The best way to avoid earthquake damage and harm to your body is to be prepared. For example, people who live in an area at high risk for earthquakes can safeguard their home. The diagram shows ways to do this. Be sure to read the other tips for earthquake safety on this page. So let's see. These are things that you can do if you live in an area. So if I live in California, I might want to do all this stuff. Number one, obviously check for cracks and repair. Make sure my house is in good position right it is. This isn't check after an earthquake. This is check before an earthquake. Make sure everything is still solidly built. Obviously, over time, guys, things can happen inside houses, and I got to make sure it's well. 2, use shatter-resistant film on windows. So what that means is we use these things on cars, guys. When a car window, lots of times it doesn't just shatter into a million pieces like glass. It's got a film that tries to stick and hold it all together so that if an earthquake happens, we don't have flying glass. It'll break, it'll make all those little pieces, but hopefully it half sticks together and just crumples to the floor so you don't get killed with flying glass. 3, major important, secure gas appliances so they don't start a fire. So they have a water heater picture here, guys, that's warmed by natural gas. It's like a flame under there. If that gets severed, I have natural gas flowing into this house, and obviously a spark could cause it to explode or just start a fire. Very, very dangerous. So we want to make sure it stays together. D, attach fixtures and bookcases so they don't fall on top of us. So when they're talking about electrical fixtures, guys, think about lights hanging from a ceiling. If you have like a chandelier, we obviously don't want that falling down, shattering, sparking, bookcases falling on us. Use steel and wood to secure openings so that there's not a collapse of the building, and strengthen roofs and walls with metal. Okay, now all good advice, guys, all things that cost a lot of money. Would I do that to my house in Wisconsin? No way. That's, in my mind, a waste of money. I'm going to pay all this extra money, and I don't think an earthquake's going to happen. If I lived in California, would I do that? Maybe, if I lived in a high earthquake area. So it's such a fine line, guys, because you obviously want to live through an earthquake, but anything that you do to improve that is going to cost a lot of money. And so in America, we do a pretty good job of building buildings pretty solid to be able to handle those things. Their safety, before an earthquake, obviously make a safety plan. Hey, if an earthquake happens, where are you going to go and where are you going to be, kind of thing. So what happens when an earthquake hits? If you're inside, your job is to get under a table or a desk. In other words, I'm going to get under something that I literally believe can have the roof collapse and it'll hold me. So I'm not getting under a flimsy little card table. I'm getting under a really strong living room table so that if stuff from the ceiling falls down, the table protects me. Lots of times they'll tell you to get inside like a tornado, get into the interior rooms where walls are closer together. It gives you a better chance of surviving. Stay away from anything that'll fall. So I might pick up my living room table and drag it 10 feet because it's underneath a chandelier, and that chandelier might fall off, and I might move it away from the light, kind of thing. If you're outside, guys, just get away from stuff. You don't want a building to fall on you, so you get out in as much as an open area as you can. So stay away from objects that can fall, get under a desk or a table. If outside, get away from as much as you can get away from. Okay, I just wrote safety for a volcano. There's really nothing you can do, guys, besides get out of the area. Volcanoes have not killed too many people in the recent history because we're getting better at saying, hey guys, stay away, number one. Number two, not too many people live on the side of a volcano. So Mount St. Helens erupts. Okay, I see Mount St. Helens erupt. I get in my car and I drive away fast. I outrun it, and I don't have to go that far to be out of the danger zone of a volcano. So it's just a matter of making sure you're away from those things. So the basics with a volcano. All right, big key takeaways, guys. Number one, we really can't predict either one of them. We're better at volcanoes than we are at earthquakes. And then you just have to decide if the cost is worth it as we go through those things. All right, extra credit for the day. I want you to write this statement. Gas appliances can cause fires. That, in my mind, is one of the biggest safety things we have to make sure we take care of. Make sure we don't have ruptured gas lines. So gas appliances can cause fires. All right, have a great day.